out in his short life. If you could keep this secret, I'd forever be grateful.
I must admit, I'm moved by both your honesty and compassion. However, I can only promise this. When the time comes and the truth of the murder is revealed, if Simon's past is of no consequence, then there's no reason for it to remain anything more than the past. As long as you can carry that burden.
I understand. And thank you. Is there anything else, sir?
No, Mercy. I think I'm going to break for lunch. Would you be so kind as to send something to my room?
Sir.
Yes, what is it, Bassett?
We found something, sir. Something that may have belonged to the murderer.
Excellent work, Bassett. Now let's find a killer.
Yes, sir. Now, what would you like me to do with this?
What do you suppose it is? It looks to be a walking stick of some sort. Or a crutch.
Well, I can't say for certain, but it appears to be some sort of shillelagh.
And what leads you to that conclusion, Bassett?
Well, if you look closely, it appears to be hand-carved of blackthorn, which is traditionally used in the carving of shillelaghs.
Very good. The gardener is of Irish descent.
Well, perhaps he's your man.
Ah, not so fast, young Bassett. When calculating murder, the sum of motive and evidence do not always equal truth. Though sometimes it may, in fact, equal justice.
But, sir, how can we get justice without the truth?
One cannot. It's what you do with the truth. Justice, young Bassett, is much like beauty.
How do you mean, sir?
It often lies in the eye of the beholder. Quickly, dust for prints.
Inspector, the Daltons have returned. Will you still take lunch in your room?
No, please tell the Daltons to meet me in the drawing room right away. Thank you all for joining me here.
Of course, Inspector.
Whatever we can do to help your investigation.
You want to speak to each of us individually, I suppose?
I don't believe that'll be necessary.
Oh, I see.
Surely, you must have some questions that remain unanswered.
We'll get to that.
Inspector, would you mind if my husband joined us?
Of course not, but in a few moments. There are a few things I'd like to discuss with you and your family before the others join us.
As you wish.
I'd like to start with you, Lady Maud.
Me? Oh, right.
You confessed to poisoning your sister's husband, isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the reason for that being?
As I said last night, I wanted him to love me.
She's always been jealous of Constance. Haven't you, Maud?
Thank you, sir, but I believe I was asking your sister.
It's true. I was a little jealous.
Some might see poisoning someone as a dramatic measure.
You've always been out to hurt me, no matter the cost. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's true. I wanted to hurt her feelings, so I poisoned him.
I admit my children aren't always on the best behavior, but you can't actually believe that any of them would cause the other harm.
I'm not as concerned with one of them causing each other harm as I am with one of them causing Mr. Sullivan's death.
Now see here. I won't have you stand in my ancestral home and accuse my family of murderous treachery.
I take it you're not a student of history, Lord Dalton.
How do you mean?
First, as it turns out, our ancestors are the most treacherously murderous of all time.
And the second?
History tends to repeat itself, doesn't it? Which leads me to my next question. Bertram.
Lord Bertram.
Excuse me, my lord. How long have you and Mrs. Davies Dalton been married?
It's been about 8.5 years now.
I've noticed you have no children.
You are observant, aren't you?
Is that why there's so much tension between your wife and your mother?
Of course it is. It is important for Bertie to have sons of his own to carry on the line.
And what of your father's relationship with your wife?
What of it?
I'm asking you, my lord.
Well, he may not win Father of the Year, but he's hardly Henry VIII.
Touché. And then there's Lady Constance, second in line.
Yes, lucky me.
You don't seem the kind of woman to let luck play any part in your plans.
I don't have time for luck. It's never much been my friend. I've always made my own luck.
My point exactly.
Inspector, my family has been through so much. Do you think you might go easy on them?
Very well, Lord Dalton. I'll focus my attention on you.
Thank you. Oh.
What is the reason for this little weekend excursion in the first place?
Can't a man wish to spend time with his family? Is that a crime?
Of course not. And what about you, madam? What is it you're hiding?
Oh, Inspector. We're British. It could be any number of things.
Pardon me, Inspector? Dr. Cavendish is here for you.
Ah, thank you. If you'll all kindly wait here, I'll only be but a moment. Harris, kindly gather everyone who was here last night so we can get to the bottom of this once and for all.
Pardon me, Inspector. Bertie, where on earth have you been?
We went for a little walk out in the garden.
A walk? Whatever for?
What exactly are we doing?
I must admit, this hardly seems the time for a family outing.
I think it's rather nice.
Maud, please. There is something you wished to explain?
Is someone going to tell us what's going on?
Of course we are. In due time.
And what, pray tell, constitutes due time?
I've had enough of this foolishness. I'm going to find Cyril.
If you turn back, you will be disinherited, and your relationship to this family irreparably damaged.
Constance, please.
I demand to know what is going on this instant.
It's been long enough. It's time you know the truth. Would you like to start, my dear?
I'm not sure I can, George.
They deserve to know.
Very well. Children, when I was pregnant with Maud, there were complications.
What sort of complications?
Oh, not with you, Maud. You were a perfect little bundle.
Then with you, Mother?
Not exactly. There was another baby.
You despicable man. Who was she? What is the name of the whore who bore my bastard brother?
Bertram, do not disrespect your father.
You mean the way he's disrespected you? Both of us?
Will you please stop this game of cloak and dagger and tell us what is going on?
Go on, Florence, I'm here.
Maud, dear, you were born a twin.
I can't breathe.
Are you all right, Maud?
All right?
I can't believe what I'm hearing. How could she possibly be all right? How could any of us?
Lower your voice.
So, Simon is, after all, our brother?
And Maud's twin.
He is. The solicitor delivered the papers this morning. I confirmed it before we left.
I can't believe it. How could you keep this from us all these years?
Oh, never mind us. How could you keep this from Maud? Maud, I'm so sorry. No wonder you've been unhappy all these years. I've been so horrid to you. Can you ever forgive me?
I've always forgiven you. You're my sister. However, there's one thing I'd like to know.
Only one?
Why now? Why keep the secret for so long, only to tell me us now?
We wanted to tell you, but... Oh. I can't go on, George. I just can't.
I'm afraid you haven't any choice. The cat is out of the bag, as they say. So tell us, why have you kept our brother a secret for 22 years?
Bertram, that is enough.
It is not even in orbit of enough. This is the most selfish thing that the two of you have ever inflicted upon us. How are we to look at him and not wonder what life would have been like with him in it? Furthermore, how are we ever to look at the two of you again without feeling contempt for a life stolen from us?
It was stolen from us, too.
What are you talking about? You turned your back on your son, my brother, Maud's twin, and what? To shield your precious firstborn?
It wasn't our doing. It wasn't our fault.
Because they told us he was dead.
What?
Who told you?
The hospital. Twins are difficult in childbirth, and it is not uncommon for one child not to survive. Oh, Maud. Maud, when you were born, you were the picture of health. But Simon was not well. He was so small. He was so weak. And after your birth, they rushed him out of the room, and when they came back, they told us that he was gone. We were so distraught, we couldn't bear to see him again.
Yet there he was, standing before us. How do you explain that?
It was your grandfather's doing.
Grandfather?
Yes, he took one look at Simon and said, I knew you wouldn't get this right either. My father and I were never close, but I never thought he could be so cruel. It was all his doing. Of course, we didn't know that until on his deathbed he made a confession that Simon was still alive and out there somewhere.
But if Simon were the one claiming to be our brother, then why did he say he had no idea?
Because he doesn't.
He had been living on a farm in Lincolnshire, and he's been told that his mother passed in birth.
But you told us there was someone claiming to be our brother. That's what the solicitor said.
Yes. The fact it was us searching for Simon and not the other way around.
So he has no idea.
No. Simon is completely innocent.
Darling, I asked you a question.
What is that?
Why on earth would you go for a walk while I was being interrogated?
Oh, we needed to clear the air.
Well, I hope it worked.
So do I.
Dr. Cavendier, thank you for your expeditious work on this case.
Yes, anything I can do to help.
You've given Mr. Bassett the autopsy report?
Yes, sir. Right here.
Excellent. Before you go, have you cared for the Dalton family for long?
I should say. I've served them for some 15 years now.
And if I may ask your expert opinion?
I'd be happy to provide one.
These blackouts that Lady Maud experiences, What could they be attributed to?
Yes. We've never quite been able to put our finger on it, but I believe them to be what we call psychotic seizures, sometimes followed by periods of dissociation or losing time. Or she may have low blood sugar. It's hard to tell.
I don't mean to question your credibility, Doctor, but seems to be a rather large disparity from one diagnosis to the next.
I don't disagree, but at this stage, there really is no way of knowing for certain.
Thank you, Doctor.
Oh, pardon, Inspector, but I must powder my nose.
Oh, by all means.
I can see the good doctor out.
Well, sir?
Yes, Bassett. I know who did it.
Of course you do. Let's go in there and tell him.
Ah, young Bassett, where's the fun in that? No, no, no. We shall let them tell us. I would like to thank you all for meeting me here. I wanted to let you know that I've received the autopsy report from Dr. Cavendish.
And does he know what killed Mr. Sullivan?
A conclusion was arrived at, yes.
Are you going to tell us?
Well, we should wait for Lady Dalton's return.
Here I am. I apologize for making you wait.
No need for that.
Now that we are all assembled, please go on.
Before I begin, I think it's important to understand that the only thing we are after here is justice. That is what we are in search of. Justice for Mr. Sullivan, who was attacked and ultimately murdered by someone in this very room. Let us unravel this mystery, shall we? 0100 hours, I received a call from my protégé, Mr. Bassett, in London, informing me that not only had there been an attempt made on someone's life at the Cheltenham Manor, but that someone else had gone missing. Now, being the weekend, I was visiting my country home, which enabled me to get here before the rest of my men. When I arrived shortly after 0200 hours, I was invited in by Mr. Harris, who then introduced me to everyone in the drawing room, where you, Lord Dalton, informed me of your daughter's disappearance.
Yes, that's correct. Maud was missing at the time.
Shortly thereafter, we heard a scream from the hall. We ran over to find Lady Maud standing over a body face down on the ground, which means that all of you were together with the exception of Lady Maud, which begs the question, where were you? And why weren't you with the others?
Well, you see, we had to split up, all of us, in pairs, at my father's suggestion. As we spoke on earlier, I had made a terrible error in judgment regarding my sister's husband. And we had been searching the house together and looking for the intruder, and we all separated briefly.
And where were you during this time?
I went to my sister's room.
And why is that?
I needed to borrow something.
And what about you, Mr. Walker?
I remained in the Bovary room until Constance came and got me there.
And did you see Lady Maud again before returning to the drawing room?
I did, briefly, but then Constance and I left her there in the Bovary room, and we returned here.
Lady Constance?
Yes, Inspector?
Your sister says that everyone was searching the house in pairs.
Yes, that's right.
So how is it that you were travelling alone when you found your husband?
I had been delegated to remain with my mother, while the two of us searched the family bedrooms. After completing our task, I left, at her urging, and went in search of my husband.
And how is it that you knew where to find him?
I didn't, exactly. My father told them to search the guest room, so I knew whereabouts, and there they would be. And as it were, when I approached the Bovary room, I could hear...
Yes?
I could hear Cyril and Maud chatting, so I knew he was in there.
I see. And you left your mother to return to the drawing room by herself?
Yes, we found no intruder, and she knew the way.
Of course she did. Didn't you, Lady Dalton?
I should think so. This is my house, after all.
Yes, and I'd venture to say you know it better than most.
And you'd be correct. I know every inch of this house, every painting, every drapery.
Every staircase and hallways, I'd imagine.
What exactly are you getting at, Inspector?
The truth, sir. The truth. Which brings me to you, Lord Dalton. A bold choice, splitting the search parties into pairs.
I've never been one to shy away from daunting decisions.
Why is it that you wouldn't pair your daughter with her husband?
Someone had to protect my wife.
I would think your son be the more obvious choice.
You don't know my daughter. And my son was injured not 30 minutes before, along with poor Mr. Harris. So I left Mr. Grigsby in charge of them and sent Constance off with her mother.
Why not go with your wife yourself?
I wanted to be sure Nora was safe, and I knew Constance and Florence could take care of themselves.
So you set out in the dark with your son's wife?
I did.
And were the two of you together the entire time?
Yes, we were. For most of the time.
Most?
Yes, you see, we searched the ground floor. We had gotten to just outside Lord Dalton's office when I thought I heard something, or someone, behind me, and I turned to look. And when I turned back around, Lord Dalton was no longer in front of me.
I stepped into my office for a moment to make sure it was secure.
I called out to him. He answered me that I should head back to the drawing room and he'd be right along.
So you were separated for some time?
It couldn't have been more than a few moments.
You'd be surprised by the number of perfidious acts that can be committed in less time than that.
Would I?
And your husband?
My husband is no stranger to duplicity.
Thank you, darling. But I do believe he was asking where I was whilst you were probing around the house with my father. I was right here, Inspector.
Is that so? The entire time?
Yes, as a matter of fact. Just ask my bruh and new valet. Or my butler.
The three of you were here together?
Yes, I'm afraid that's all there is to it.
And what about you, Mercy? What were you doing during all of this?
Mr. McCarthy and I were asked to search the servants' quarters and kitchen.
And did you find anything out of the ordinary?
No, sir, I didn't.
Nor did I, sir.
So you weren't together?
Aye, we were.
Until we weren't.
And when exactly was that?
Well, we went down to the service hall together, but then Mercy suggested we split up to save time and then meet back in the coal cellar.
I see. So you split for how long, would you say?
I don't know, 10 minutes perhaps?
Then you searched the coal cellar together?
Yes, sir. We went into the cellar together, found nothing, and returned here.
That just leaves you, Mrs. Cranshaw.
Well, after Lady Maud's collapse at dinner, I came back here with the others. Once she was feeling better, I returned to my room.
Did you go alone?
Nora walked me back, and thank goodness she did, or I may never have found my room.
And what time was it, would you say?
Oh, about midnight, I'd say.
Yes, that's about right.
And what happened next?
I said goodnight to Nora and went into my room. I went into the bathroom to change, and when I came out... Patrick!
Expecting someone else?
No, I'm not expecting anyone. You frightened me. How did you know I would be here?
I guess it's just the luck of the Irish.
You should leave at once.
I think I'll stick around a bit.
Patrick, what are you doing here? Where did you get that?
That's none of your concern.
Patrick, please, whatever you're thinking of doing, don't do it. These are nice people.
Nice people? Nice people, you say? If you know about them what I do, you'd think differently.
What are you talking about? Why are you here?
I'm here to get paid what is owed to me.
I don't understand.
Let me put this plainly for you. If I don't get my money tonight, no one will be spared. All those dirty little secrets will be splashed across the Times. And all these nice people will be ruined. Where do you think you're going?
To tell them.
Over my dead body. Now you stay there. And stay quiet. Or I'll come for you too. Tie yourself up.
Why are you doing this?
Evelyn, are you all right?
Oh, yes, so sorry. I stubbed my toe on the bedpost.
I'm going to find Bertie.
Now come with me.
So, it was Patrick, then, who brushed up against me as I ran down the hall after Simon shot Bertie?
I didn't mean it. You're forgiven.
And that's where you were coming from when I passed you in the hall.
Yes, but where did you think I was coming from?
But how did you know that my father was in his room?
I saw him in there when your mother left.
My mother?
Yes, I was getting some air on the balcony. On my return, your mother stepped out of your father's room and I bid them both good night.
And what happened next, Mrs. Cranshaw?
He dragged me down the hall to the service stairwell.
Why were you assisting him?
No, I owe my life to these people. I never put any of them in danger, not purposely. Patrick had been my problem for so long. I didn't want him to cause anyone else the pain that he'd caused me. I wanted him out the house, so I tried to get him to leave out the service entrance.
And then what happened?
We had almost made it to the bottom of the stairs when I pushed him. He grabbed me and I screamed, and then we heard someone coming out of one of the rooms. That's when Patrick hit Mr. Harris from behind.
Hit him? With what? Did he have a weapon?
I'm not sure. It was so dark.
He must have had it in his coat.
He wasn't wearing a coat.
Not while he was lying in the hall. Which time?
But he was.
How do you know that?
I'm the one who let him in, remember?
What?
Aye, he knocked on the back door and said he was Philip Martin, the new valet.
And you warned no one?
I tried. I told him to come inside. It was raining cats and dogs. I asked him to wait by the door until I came back for him. I headed up the stairs to tell Mr. Harris, but my knee gave out. I went back to get my shillelagh that I keep by the door and he was gone. I thought he'd left.
Wouldn't that be a twist in the plot? Mr. Sullivan was never here. Oh, Bertie, that's how your murder play should end.
Unfortunately, darling, it doesn't hold up.
Why not?
Because we all saw his lifeless body in the hall. Twice.
He got up once. What's to say he didn't get up again?
Mr. McCarthy, do you recall what Mr. Sullivan was wearing?
Aye. Hat, black gloves, and
a long black coat.
Bring it here. Ah, here's the pipe. No doubt used to attack Mr. Harris. What's this? Evidence, no doubt.
But where's the gun? It must have fired the second shot.
There was no second shot.
But there was.
We heard nothing.
But don't you remember? After we found Mr. Walker, we brought him here. Lord Bertram even said we came as soon as we heard the shot.
Do you really think we believe you?
I can see why you'd want to cast suspicion over him.
And why is that?
Because you were the only one not here.
Just a moment.
Where were you, Lady Constance?
As I said before, I was up in my room.
Then how did you know Patrick was wearing a coat?
Fine. You've got me. I've met Patrick before last night.
I see.
I had hired him to do some research for me.
Constance!
And did you get the information you were looking for?
No, actually. He came up empty, but was demanding to be paid.
Constance.
Oh, please.
So it wasn't a hallucination? He really did steal you away?
I'm afraid so.
You're alive?
I've come for my money.
Well, you've come at a bad time.
I'm not kidding. I want what you promised me.
If I remember correctly, our arrangement was that I would pay you when I delivered the information I was in search of.
Listen here. I've searched high and low, and I couldn't find no long-lost brother, or sister, or auntie, or uncle, or nobody. I still did the work, and I need to be paid for it.
Well, you should have done a better job then, shouldn't you?
I'm not stupid, you know. I did the job, and now you're trying to stiff me.
Am I?
I know all about you. You're second in line to that fancy boy brother of yours. And you want to make sure you truly are second in line. So that when you and that bootlegger husband kill him, you're the only true benefactor. So you send me on this wild goose chase, and when I come back with the only answer you really want, you say you're not going to pay. Well, I'm here to tell you you are going to pay. One way or another.
All right. Let me go to my room. I have some money there. Meet me in the hall and I will pay you what I can. And then you must leave here at once.
All you people are the same. You treat people poorly and expect to get away with it. I won't have it. I won't.
Did I know him? Yes. Did I conduct business with him? Admittedly. But did I shoot him? No. And if I did, where was the bullet?
You're right, the bullet, there was no...
shot.
There was no bullet.
Ladies and gentlemen, please. You have all been very forthcoming. And I want to thank you for your cooperation. For it has led us to the truth.
It has!
It has?
Yes, it has. And finally, I know who did it. I've known since the moment I walked into this room.
Then why put us through this little game of murder?
Oh, darling, I love it.
Because I was hoping the guilty party would confess. But I see I've met my match. So I'm going to tell you who did it.
But, sir...
Steady, Bassett.
Please, Inspector, don't keep us in suspense any longer. Who is the murderer?
Very well. The person responsible for the death of Patrick Sullivan is...
All right, I admit it. I'm the one that stabbed him. Stabbed him through the heart. I knew what he was up to, and more so, what he was capable of. We'd been lovers a long time ago. He was jealous and hurtful, a dangerous, brutal man. Just like my father. Evelyn confided in me about his proclivity towards violence as I showed her back to her room. I couldn't let him hurt anyone else, so I snuck out of the drawing room while everyone was confessing their sins. I found him standing in the hall. It appeared he was going to leave and get away with it, so I called his name. He turned round, and I plunged the dagger into his heart.
Thank you for telling us the truth. It is of extreme value. But you were not the cause of Mr. Sullivan's demise.
No, you weren't. I was. I'm the guilty party. I did it. I whaled Mr. Sullivan in the back of the head with my shillelagh. I knew he was up to no good, and I had to protect Lady Maud. So I whacked him in the head right after he lied to me and told me he was Philip Martin. I knew he couldn't be. I just meant to knock him out, honestly. Then I dragged him to the coal cellar until I could get at the truth. That's why I never told anyone he was here. Then, when Mercy and I searched the service halls, I tried to move him, but his coat was soaking wet, which made him quite a bit heavier and rather slippery, if you know what I mean. Once I'd gotten the coat off, I tossed it in the corner and dragged Mr. Sullivan back up the stairs. That's where Lady Maud found him.
But you are not the cause of his death either.
No, he's not. I am. It wasn't a knock on the head, nor a knife through the heart that killed Patrick Sullivan. Was it, Inspector?
No, it was not.
I poisoned him before he returned last night. He came to see me early yesterday. I met him at the service entrance. He said he knew what I was planning, so I invited him in for tea and a biscuit. While he was distracted, I slipped some arsenic into his drink. And to be certain, sprinkled some into his coat as well. He must have been rather strong to have fought it off for that long. He then informed me of the details he had been made aware of regarding Simon, and proposed blackmail as a means to keep them secret. I'm sorry to have ever crossed paths with him, and I'm sorrier still to have exposed you all to my deception. I was only trying to do right by the Grigsbys. So, Inspector, it appears I'm your man.
So what next, sir?
Yes, Inspector Wallace. What will happen to me now?
Nothing.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I believe you are.
But you said you were after the truth, and I've just confessed.
Yes, you have. You just confessed to ridding the world of a lying, abusive, cruel, heartless, blackmailing criminal. And the fact that you were forthright in telling me the truth helps me to know that you felt you had no other choice. And that you will never do anything like that again. My assessment, along with the autopsy report, will clear you of any wrongdoing.
But, sir...
Gather our things, Bassett. I still have a few things to finish up.
But, sir...
I'll meet you outside.
Did that really just happen?
I think I'm in shock.
I need an aspirin.
I need a tutor.
I need a drink.
Well, why don't you all go and freshen up and we'll take a luncheon.
Mercy, please tell Mrs. Knievely that luncheon will be served out of doors today.
Yes. I think we could...
Well, now that that's over, will you tell me what you discussed on your walk?
Well, we learned some very interesting information about Simon, which I'll get into later. But then, something even more unbelievable occurred.
No. Simon is completely innocent. It is your father and I who are guilty.
But that's not all.
Oh, for heaven's sake, what else?
It was I who killed Mr. Sullivan.
What? Are we in some sort of parallel universe? Bertie, is this all for your new murder play?
I wish I'd written this. Killed Mr. Sullivan? But why on earth? What had he done to you?
It was not what he'd done to us, but what he was going to do to all of you.
To us? We never even met him.
We know, but he'd been blackmailing your mother and I for a long time.
He found out about Simon somehow, and it's what we deserve, I suspect. Oh, what we've put you through after all these years.
What about what you've been through? You shouldn't have to suffer any longer for grandfather's unforgivable mistakes.
No, but I won't let anyone else pay for my father's mistakes. And we can't afford another scandal. I'm going back inside to confess.
You just said we can't risk a scandal. Correct me if I'm wrong, but murder still qualifies.
We'll be ruined.
Oh dear
This
Lord,
is
what are we going to
absolutely
do? I can't
ridiculous.
believe this.
Can't believe this.
Wait. I've got an idea.
So it was your father the whole time?
Yes, but no one must know.
But how did Simon know to use the name Philip Martin?
Mercy told him. She's the one who hired him to be Evelyn's driver.
But then how did Patrick know?
The same way he found out about everything else.
What about the autopsy report? Won't it say he was shot?
Why should it? Mother called Dr. Cavendier and had him change the results.
My God, it's brilliant.
Yes, it is. And to think, it was all Maud's idea. Now, shall we go to luncheon? All of this has made me quite peckish.
Good work, young Bassett.
Well, thank you, sir.
Here you are.
I must admit, I'm a chop baffled as to why no arrests were made. 3 people just confessed to murder.
Perhaps if you look in there, it'll make a bit more sense.
But this must be some mistake. It says here the cause of death was natural causes. But how can that be? I don't understand.
It's quite simple, my boy. The document is false.
But, sir, why?
You heard the doctor say himself. He served the family for 15 years, not taking care of them, but served them. No doubt he and Lady Dalton have a more intimate understanding of the situation. Not to mention the fact that not one of them told us that young Simon Grigsby is, in actuality, Simon Dalton, twin to Maud, nor the arranged marriage between Cyril Walker and Lady Constance, for which she stole him away from her own sister, or that Lord Dalton had been involved with his son's wife before, and least of all, that Lord Bertram and Henry Harris had been lovers for years.
But, sir, how do you know all this? Did they confess it?
No. It was all in Mr. Sullivan's evidence folder.
But Mercy confessed to poisoning Mr. Sullivan.
One dash of arsenic could never take down a man as strong as Sullivan.
Then the shillelagh?
Unlikely.
Then the dagger? Then who?
It is my judgment that it was Lord Dalton who shot and killed Patrick Sullivan.
Shot him? But there was no bullet wound.
But there was, just under his blood-soaked cap.
We should go back and arrest him and the doctor.
On what grounds, Bassett? A hunch?
But you said we were after truth and justice.
Then did we not find out the truth? Remember what I told you about justice. Much like beauty, it is in the eye of the beholder. The family has suffered enough. The report claims a death from natural causes from a monster of a man who brutalized women and blackmailed his way through life. In my eyes, justice has been granted. And the case of the murder of Cheltenham Manor has been closed.
Can I help you?
I hope so. I'm Philip Martin, the new valet.
Oh, we've been expecting you.
I'm sorry it took so long for me to get here, but the bridge was out and
Not another word, it's probably for the best.
Oh, a busy night?
You could say that. Your room is down the hall. I'll send Mr. Harris back to meet you in a jiff. Forgive me for scurrying out, but it's a busy day. Oh, and welcome to Cheltenham Manor.